All right, hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. Before I introduce you to the moderator and go over the agenda, I just wanted to cover a few quick logistic questions. And also I wanted to thank you all for joining today. I know it's a hectic time on campus and I'm glad that you are trying to find out more information about how to solve problems on your campuses, once they return to normal. So if you need to ask a question at any point during the webinar, whether it has something to do with the content being presented or something more technical about, not being able to hear or see or what have you, feel free to use the questions or chat tab on your webinar dashboard. We will address those if they're technical as soon as we can, and if they are related to content, you can ask them at any point, but we will address them once the main session is over. Also, if you want to download the actual presentation slide deck, that's in the handout section of your webinar dashboard, and you can just download that whenever you are able to. And this webinar is being recorded and will be available by the close of business today directly from the same webinar page where you registered. It'll be linked to our YouTube account. So without further ado, I want to hand it off to Annetta Stroud.
Great, thank you so much, Mike. And thank you again, everyone, for being here with us today. My name is Annetta Stroud. I'm the Associate Director for Content and Curriculum with Accro. And again, we're really excited to welcome you to today's webinar, Aligning Curriculum Development and Accreditation Requirements. And again, before we get started, I did just want to reiterate a quick note on the question and answer feature. During any point in the presentation, if you do have questions, just go ahead and utilize the chat feature on the right side of your dashboard. At the end of the presentation, we will go ahead and field all of those questions to our fabulous panelists for today. And with that, we will go ahead and get started with today's webinar, again, Aligning Curriculum Development and Accreditation Requirements. This webinar is going to highlight how Northern Kentucky University has implemented and utilized the curriculum management system Curriculog, as well as how Curriculog is being used to go beyond just a curriculum management system. I am pleased to introduce our panelists for today, Connie Kaskaden from Northern Kentucky University and Ian Stewart from Digarc. Thank you both so much for being here with us today. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ian.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Netta. And we are very excited to be here today and talk about Connie's experiences with the curriculum process. And I know you mentioned the chat feature too. We'd love to have an engaging webinar. So if you can, I'd love everyone to just chat hi into the chat box and maybe also the city where you're from. We'd love knowing who's joining us as well. And wanted to thank you once again for coming. So one of the things before we start, I just wanted to do a quick overview of Northern Kentucky University. So you can see here a beautiful shot of the campus. And Northern Kentucky is a larger university with a full-time enrollment of 11,580 students. Not only that, but they have about 84 bachelor's programs, 46 master's and master level certificate programs, and also 3 professional and doctorate degrees. So a very wide range of scope and their offerings to their students. And also one interesting fact about Northern Kentucky University is 80% of NK of their students work about 20 hours or more a week. So they have a really non-traditional student population of students already in the workforce and gaining professional experience. And even that many work more than 20 hours and approaching that 30-hour scope as well. And so with that, I just wanted to hand it over to Connie. I know she has a couple of questions for you before we start. So without further ado, take it away, Connie.
Hi, glad to be here. I will have questions for you. The first thing I want to do is just give you a little introduction of myself. I have been working at NKU for the past 20 years. I have had several different positions, but since 2015, I am the coordinator for curriculum programs, which means I help facilitate getting curriculum programs and any course changes, anything that does with curriculum through the system. So that's my fun job. I have others that I also do, but this is my primary requirement. So with that, my questions I'm going to give to you, these are some things for you to think about as we're going through this webinar. The first one, Ian, and if you all want to jot these down or something, you may want to think about them as we go or think about them after we're finished. What is your curriculum approval process like? Shortly, I will show you what NKUs used to be like and how it is now using Curriculog. The second one is, what is your current process for managing your accreditation process when it pertains to curriculum, new programs, anything that, any substantive changes, those type of things for accreditation processes. I'm going to cover a couple of those things in this webinar. Next slide. As you can see, we kind of are sharing, whoop, I think we went a little quick, but this is our process. We're using a slide we borrowed from Clemson, and as most everyone had, their paper process in the past was probably just like this, a mishmash of everything. I know that I had 5 file cabinets full of old forms that once we were able to go electronic, we have had to scan them all and archive them. So it has been tedious, but now with Curriculog, luckily we don't have to do that anymore. They are all electronic. Next slide. This is our process. Looks kind of scary. On this, we have 5 steps actually listed here. We have an idea, which is step 1. We have a pre-proposal we have to do, which is step 2. Then we have to do a full proposal, which is step 3. Then we have internal notifications and external notifications. We probably all have similar processes. But in switching to Curriculog, we have taken these processes and we have narrowed them down into 2 forms, proposal forms that we use in Curriculog. First, Ian, you can advance. Next slide. As you can see here highlighted, what we have done is we have combined step 1 and step 2 because they have the same approvals. We have the initiator who comes up with the idea. We then have to send it to our Dean's Council. We actually have an Academic Affairs Council, which includes a few others besides just the deans. And then we have to send it to the state. We have to do that for step number 1 first and get approval for the idea. And then we have to do a pre-proposal, which gives a little bit more information to each step of approval, demand, student demand, employer demand, the budget, that type of thing in the pre-proposal. Once we get to this stage and we send it to our state, the other change is that the state sends it out to all of the Kentucky colleges and universities for a 30-day comment period. So we have to wait till all of that is processed, and then we start this second bubble, which is our full proposal. With our full proposal, we have 10 actual approval steps in that process, and we have included the notifications in this full proposal. The internal and external combined, we have 13 different notifications that have to go out. So if we look at the next slide, one of the things that we did was for notifications, we combined them into groups. So instead of having 13, we have 5 groups. If you'll click through, Ian, we have a registrar's group. We then have a advising group. We have a group we called new or deleted programs notifications. That includes our admissions, our institutional research, our transfer services. Then we have our SACS liaison next. And finally, we have our Director of International Programs so that they can do reporting to CBIS for any new programs that need to be reported for international students. And as we go to the next slide.
Excellent. And definitely, thank you, Connie. So I know we talked a lot about, using your current software curriculum for going beyond curriculum. How are you all currently using it for accreditation as well?
Ian, I'm glad you asked, because one of the things that we have done is inside our proposal form, actually we do this in both of the proposals, even the idea pre-proposal and the full proposal. We have put in a conditional question. This conditional question actually, just asks, is this a substantive change? Right now, the originator, which would be a faculty or possibly a program coordinator or the chair of a department, may be the one trying to determine if it is a substantive change. To help our individuals out, you can see that we have a little bubble there around substantive change form at the top. When our users click on that, and Ian, if you go to the next slide, they get a form that looks like this. It's almost as ugly as our process form that I showed you the flow chart earlier. Our users have to look at this and try to determine what type of change it is, and then it gives them a recommended time frame and then due dates. With the time frame, it also says this is what type of documentation we have to send, and this is what you need to prepare. We have links to templates they can use. However, if you go to the next slide, Ian, in this, once that they check that box, we send it to the liaison, the SACS liaison, and the SACS liaison will then discuss it with the originator and help them with what kind of documentation is needed. One of the things that I will mention is that in this process, we've been doing this for about a year and using this conditional question. The SACS liaison came to me and we talked about it and decided that we should not make our users try to get through that wonderful form of list of things that they could be substantive changes. And we should add some additional questions to narrow it down and help them determine yes or no if it is a substantive change. So when we do that, which I'm working on now, it's not in effect yet, but will be for the fall, we still will have in our approval process, and this slide is showing you that, we have that SACS substantive change. We just did pop to the next, the full proposal, so you can see the approval process there for the full proposal as well. In both, we have the substantive change notification to the SACS liaison. They get notified in the idea pre-proposal so that they can contact and start working with the originators to start preparing the documentation. In the full proposal, it goes to the liaison once again, but in this one, the SACS liaison will check to see where the originator is in preparing their documentation, if they need any assistance or have questions or anything that needs to be done, just to make sure that we're staying on point and on time and keeping it moving through the process. You'll see also at the bottom of the screen, we have another final little check here. Curriculum coordinator, that would be me. Basically, I'm on the end of every proposal we have because I'm kind of that last check to make sure we don't miss anything. On this one, I even typed out in Curriculog, we can name each of our steps. So I typed it out, naming it. This is the final approval. CPE is our state agency. So I have to get their information. I have to prepare and mail notification letters to SACS, our accreditor, which we would mail the notifications or any prospectus that might be required, or with new programs. We have other documentation, or even deleted programs that we're deleting, we would have to send the teach out plan. So that's our final check in Curriculog. This has really helped us in our process to make sure that we're getting it done on time and we're not missing those steps. Should there be something else that comes up that gets added, because we all know that every now and then the requirements change and we may have to add something additional. With Curriculog, we can add another approval step in here at any place on this list and make sure that we keep that on, right in there where that we need it. And it's easy to add something that might happen new. If they change the requirements and we need to take something out, we can also take the approval out. Next slide.
Excellent. Thank you, Connie. And what are some other ways you're also using Curriculog on campus as well?
I'll tell you, we have, Curriculog has an other form. We use this other form for attaching minutes and other documents to our agendas. We also do the agendas inside Curriculog. If we need to update a CIP code, if there's an unexpected change by iPads, we just had one about a month or two ago that it was just one individual one. It was not the whole crosswalk list that comes out, and it's like every 10 years. We have one coming out for 2020, but this was prior to that. So we had to put through a request to change the CIP code. This way it helped us keep documentation and to get it through the system quickly. We also use it for processing bulk mass changes, where that if you have a whole lot of courses you're changing the prereq to, we can do that. Also, we have, I'm trying to think, this other one is that, I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me for this other form. It is, hang on just a second, let me get there. Oh, change of delivery mode. I should remember this. Right now, everybody's going to online. Oh my goodness. But really, this is not what we would use this form for. Basically, if we are changing a program from being a face-to-face program, and we are going to change it to be an all online program. We still might offer some face-to-face classes, but the program itself is going to be all online. We've created another form so that we can send through the information to update those delivery modes and get it through all of the approval processes that we need to do for that, and get it changed in our student information system. And we use that other form for that. Today, I'm going to cover two of these, adding minutes to and other documents to the agenda, and the bulk mass changes. So, attaching documents to agendas. This is what the inside of Curriculog looks like a little bit. We created an other form for attaching the minutes and other documentation. You can see there's only 2 questions here on the left-hand side, and there's only 2 approval steps on the right-hand side. With this in the title, we just basically title it with documents. We also, in the hierarchy, that's just going to be the committee that it's going to be for. The approval is the originator, which typically is going to be the committee chair. And the second approval step is going to be when the committee's finished. The committee chair, again, will finalize this proposal. Next slide. The actual agenda, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Next slide. So here is our actual agenda. We have, as you can see, next slide, or next, you can see where the bubble is. This last item, always on our agenda, is the actual proposal that it has the documents in it. So if we click on that, it opens up over on the right-hand side that proposal. So we're just displaying what the proposal looks like. And as you can see that it shows the documents that are attached, minutes for these 2 dates. In the agenda, since all of our committee members can open this agenda, they can just click on this. They can click on those links to those documents, or some people like to put it in their notes. So what they would do is they open this, the committee chair who's creating the agenda would open this, copy and paste the address from the address bar as a hyperlink into the notes. So I wanted to show everybody that you can do it 2 different ways. So it's very customizable in this, that you can have it set up the way that works best for the individuals.
Excellent.
Let me say one more thing. The other things that we can attach to that would be, other documents would be any policies that might need to be approved that are pertain to curriculum, or any workshops that are coming up pertaining to curriculum. Anything that this committee, and it could be any committee, it doesn't have to be just the curriculum committee, but any committee, any documents that they need to see, we could attach them here so that then our members have access to them. Okay, next slide.
Excellent. Thank you, Connie. So, we talked in the beginning, as a large institution, with over 11,000 full-time enrolled students, how are y'all managing, large curriculum changes that can happen in that type of environment?
We use the other form. We created a form that we call Mass Change. Basically, this is showing for courses. And what we have done on our form, we've given a little bit of instruction to our users who would create a mass change form. The first thing that we have, if you'll give me a slide. Next slide. Oh, did we have the, oh, no, go back, sorry. I was thinking I had a bubble there. But if you look at this first box, one of the things that we say in the second sentence is to contact the university curriculum chair. The reason we have them do that is so that we make sure first that they're submitting the right form, and secondly, to make sure that they understand what they need to do to submit this form and what information will be needed for the mass change. In the second box, the other thing that we give them for instruction is how to enter the title. What we do is we have a title that includes the courses that they're going to be affecting and the type of change that is going to be handled. As you can see here, we have 2 examples where the CSC is. Those 4 courses we're saying we're changing the prereq. On the second set, the CIT courses are going to be 5 deleted courses. So that would be what they put in the title section, so it will show up at the top where you see that 2021 course mass change. When it gets saved, it will be up there saying it's these courses, it's a mass change, and it's this type of a change. Next slide now. Here is some additional parts of the same form. Next slide. As you can see here, we have types of changes they can make to courses. So they can do a mass change for numbers, prereqs, prefix, hours, the name of the courses, the mass deletion, if they're repeatable, term changes. Those are the types of changes that we can make. The other thing that I want to point out is that we do require a justification on all of our changes. They must have a justification, and if we don't have a justification, it gets sent back to the originator to provide a justification. Next slide. And this is the end of the report. One of the things that we have them do as well, on every course that is going to be changed or deleted, they must run what we call an impact report. I should say what Curriculog calls a impact report. We run this report and it shows any courses, if any of the courses that you're wanting to change are listed as a prereq or co-req in another course, an impact report would identify any of the courses that it's attached to. It also will identify any programs that would be impacted by this change of this course. So if we're deleting courses, it's going to say, here, this course is already in these programs. You probably need to address this. If it's a core, if it's an elective, are you going to replace it with something else? That type of thing. We also do have the originator then notify those departments so that they are aware that this change is coming through, and they can then attend the curriculum meeting and to discuss, or they can discuss beforehand to work out a solution. That way everyone is notified and we make sure that everything's covered in that area as well. Next slide. Next, okay.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Connie. Really appreciate that as well. And just wanted to give a quick shout out. We'll also be having an additional webinar coming up. This is through Digarc. I'll actually be sending the link in the chat just now to everyone. So feel free to click on that and register for the webinar. It'll actually be tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So wanted to thank you once again, Connie, for that. For the great overview there. We always, it's always great to hear how other institutions are handling other processes like, like for instance, managing accreditation and mass changes, as we know that affects a lot of different colleges and universities as well. So a really quick background intro about Digarc, and I know we've been working with Connie and her folks over at Northern Kentucky for almost actually about 5 years now, since I think it was since 2015, right, Connie?
That's correct.
Yep, so for a little bit of time now. But we also work with over 720 colleges and universities really across North America, as well as Canada, and some areas overseas as well. One of the things we also like to talk about is, we also work with institutions in their catalog piece as well. I know, Connie, you guys are also using Accreditation too, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Yep. So we work with a lot of different institutions. We currently support about 7,000, or a little over now, 7,000 catalogs and 24 million annual views each year of those academic catalogs. We also help in the implementation piece as well. So we don't just hand you the software and kind of wave goodbye. We also work with you throughout that implementation process, and we completed about 230 product go lives in the last 24 months and have a client retention rating of right around 99%. So one of the things that we looked in today's view and how Connie is using Curriculog and really what it's used for is, for instance, the curriculum proposals, the forms, and Connie and her folks have really gone beyond and utilizing it for other resources on campuses like accreditation and things you've seen there. So that's really just one scope of the different solutions with Digarc. So we also work, for instance, in the catalog space with our software Accreditation, and also in our class scheduling space with Section, as well as student registration and scheduling. So online registration for your students without having to go into the office. We use our solution Register for that, formerly known as Visual Schedule Builder. And then we also work within the student engagement area. So with our solution Explore, helping populate, engaging students and bringing them to your website as well. But very similar to what Connie said in the beginning in terms of curriculum and kind of what we've seen of the current state throughout the years. We understand that there's a lot of manual effort involved in the beginning process. And I know we had some folks kind of join the webinar a little late, so just wanted to ask Connie, could you go over again kind of the route you were using for your curriculum workflow? Was it paper, was it email, or PDF, or Excel documents?
We were actually doing paper. We kind of had a in-house access database that we created so that they could create the right form, but then they would print it off and it would go through, hand delivery or interoffice mail to several different offices to get signatures before that it would get approved and then be sent to the registrar's office to enter the data into the system manually. So all manual, really.
Definitely. Thank you, Connie. And so that's, something that we've seen kind of happen as universities look for a different process. So kind of, going away from the paper process with signatures and, traveling on campus, really to more the online scope of and really providing, transparency as well. So Connie showed us a little bit behind the scenes of Curriculog. And what we're seeing here is a quick snapshot of Curriculog as well. So what you're seeing here is the Curriculog dashboard. So with Curriculog, you have transparency to where your forms are, where your proposals are in the process as well. So you can see really at just a moment who has which proposal, what step it's at. Not only that, but allows for form automation as well. So you saw all the different forms Connie was using. With Curriculog, you can really tailor and create the forms you need for your process. And overall, what we've seen just from our existing customer base is a rapid reduction in curriculum approval time, about 50%, just because we're getting away from the paper process and away from the hand signatures and things like that are delivered from office to office. But with that, I just wanted to give a quick overview of Curriculog here at one of our live client sites. So apologies, bear with me as I pull over my demonstration here. And I just want to make sure that everyone can see my screen. It should be Kennesaw State University. All right, Connie, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, looks good to me.
Perfect. Well, that's great news. So with Curriculog, you can see here, we're actually on Kennesaw State University's curriculum management site. Now you'll notice that we can see everything within here. The reason being is they have opted for a transparent Curriculog site. So we can see all the different proposals, information going through the system currently. Now that isn't the case for every institution. Some go to have their site to be non-transparent. So this would be kind of blocked from view via login credentials, as you can see up here. Connie, just want to ask, are you guys using transparent or non-transparent currently?
We are transparent.
Excellent, excellent. And that's a trend we've been seeing, with four-year universities as well. So what we can see here as we're looking at the Curriculog site, we can see all of the different proposals going through the system. So right now it looks like we can see, for instance, they have about 33 different pages of proposals. So that means they probably have a little over 300 or so proposals running through the system. So you can have as many proposals as you might like. You're not tied down to a certain number or anything like that. We see that our users really own the software. And just curious too, Connie, how many proposals would you say at this point you've kind of vetted through Curriculog?
A whole bunch. Well, I've been working with it since we started in 2015, and honestly, I haven't really looked to see how many we do annually, but we do. I know that we have a university curriculum committee meeting coming up next week, and I know we have like 80 or 100, since it's the end of the year that for our catalog, we at least have probably 80 or 100 just for this one meeting. So it's not always like that, but we have probably several hundred a year.
Right, goodness. So definitely want to make sure that we can keep in tow with everything that the institution would need. So you'll notice too at the top here, we can filter our proposals if we'd like by various stages of the proposal or even the type. So Connie mentioned using course, program, and then also the other proposal. So with institutions, a lot of them will use that for, just like Connie was saying, kind of things outside the box. We also have the ability to have an advanced filter. So say, maybe we want to search for a specific proposal at a specific time. You really have a number of options to how you can narrow down to find the proposal you might need. And then down below, here's where we can see all of the different proposals running through the system. So you can see right now we have the proposal name up at the top. Right now, let's take a look at the introduction to hip hop studies, because that sounds pretty cool. So we can see, for instance, up at the top, once again, we have our name. We can see, for instance, who's approved it, where it's going, where it's been. It gives us a quick overview of the proposal outline. And keep in mind, this is just kind of the outside view, so we're not actually going to dive, very particularly into what the, behind the scenes view would be today. Feel free to join our webinar tomorrow to get more in-depth info about that. But we can see, for instance, you have a bird's eye view over all the different steps that are taking place within each proposal. And so if I want, I can view a summary right from here, or I can go in and take a more in-depth view of the proposal. Let's go ahead and click into that really quickly. So right now, as we go into this proposal, it's telling us the type of proposal we're looking at. So for instance, in Curriculog, you can have, whatever type of proposals you might need. We'll normally see, for instance, new course proposals, new program proposals, maybe a course modification or a program modification, a course deactivation. We don't see a lot of folks deleting courses or programs. And then of course, things like the, accreditation forms as well, like Connie showed us. And so as you can see here, the different information tied in within the proposal, and you'll notice this looks a lot different than what Connie was showing us. The reason being is really each proposal and the way it's formatted is unique to each institution and the desired information that they want to have within their curriculum proposals. And you'll notice too, we have, for instance, check boxes as well as as well as required fields, and really gathering a varying amount of information. And then just like Connie showed us in her portion, we can even hyperlink within the proposal. So if we want to draw out to other areas of the institutional website, we have the ability to do that here as well. And then you'll notice up at the top too, we have, for instance, our help text. So we understand a lot of faculty are in, and using Curriculog. So we have here help text for your faculty. So if maybe you want to address a little more specifically about what needs to be in each field, you can have that here as well. And then you also have the ability, if you want to continue to print, maybe you just want to take it to someone's office, you have the ability to print the proposal in varying format too. And we can also toggle our view here as well. And then over to our right, we have you can see we have our discussion area. So here we have our user tracking feature. So if we want to see any markup, so changes that other folks have made. So, if we want to see what edits someone has made and when, we can do that here. So as you can see down below, we can even see it related to attachments that are being made. So for instance, if I go over here, I can see Amy Jones made an edit on 12/10/2019 at 3:43 p.m. We can see exactly what she edited. And then here we can see, for instance, if someone struck something out. So Jamie Cruz Ortiz struck out "we will" and added students here. So once again, it's color coded and time stamped per user. And then also, if we want, we can edit, see individual edits by certain users too. So just want to see, Connie, are you guys currently using the user tracking as well?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. And over here to our status bar. So this gives us our look into our proposal history. So we can really see an in-depth view. Think of the bubbles we were looking at on the prior page. This allows us more of an in-depth view here. So for instance, we can see our participants who are taking place, the specific activity within each step. So as it goes from, user to user in your review process. We can even see allows for committees as well, and allowing us to see what action is being taken on that committee step. And then also we have signatures areas for Curriculog. So if your folks, you still want signatures We can also allow, for instance, for a pen signature here. And then we also have our file markup area. So maybe you want to attach a paper signature or syllabus or information regarded to the new course. Here you can see they've attached a couple of different files. And if we want, we can even click into them as well. And then if we want to go ahead and make our decision, whether we're voting, this is where we'd go to do that. Of course, not being logged in, we can't make a decision on it. And then also in Curriculog, we have the ability to do what's called a custom route. So essentially what a custom route is, it allows us to push a proposal to maybe someone you don't normally send it to. So, we understand that can happen a lot at institutions where you made maybe an unusual set of eyes on a proposal. You can custom route it to really any user within Curriculog. And then also we can handle cross listings, and we do have this is a new feature within Curriculog, is a proposal lookup. So within our proposal lookup, we can see, for instance, taking a look at proposals side by side to really take an in-depth look, and then maybe we want to compare two proposals. The last area I wanted to show really quickly was the agendas feature. And now, Connie, are y'all also using agendas on campus as well?
We are.
Excellent. And I know you just mentioned that prior to. Wanted to show quickly really what an agenda would look like here. So we can see, for instance, the agenda name. It's also attached to a certain committee. And we even have an area here, for instance, if we want to add any notes within the agenda. Or as we can see down below, we have our proposals attached to the agenda too. So a couple of different areas there available. And that's really the highlight of everything I wanted to go over on my side. I want to pass it back really quickly to our folks at Acro here to see if we have any questions, comments, anything like that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ian, for the in-depth overview of Curriculog and showing how incredibly robust the system actually is. And for Connie, for sharing your experiences with the implementation and current use at Northern Kentucky. And with that, Connie, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about your experience, we do have a couple of questions. The first one would be speaking to what was the most challenging aspect of implementing Curriculog? And then with that, what was also the most satisfying part of it?
Oh, let me see. Well, I have to work with Ian, as I joke. Actually, I'm trying to think of what might have been bad about it, because really I feel like that working with it, I can say that I kind of came into it right after it was implemented. So I was not really in the initial implementation. So I kind of had to catch up a little bit and learn some of the stuff. And I went through some of the, they have some help documents that help you. So that's how that I had to do some of my learning, because I came in after the implementation team was finished. And so that was a little bit harder on me, but that's kind of what I've done for the past 40 years. So I was already in that mindset. So it is a little bit easier, but when you come in halfway through, it kind of, it takes a little bit of catch up. What I like about it is that, honestly, it has helped streamline our process, our paper process. It is saving us time. I am the only curriculum coordinator, facilitator that helps faculty, chairs, deans, everybody get their things entered in, get them through the system, send them to the state, prepare the documents, and get them sent to the accreditor. It's me. I don't have an assistant. I don't have any help in my area. So really, this is a time saver, and I like organization, sometimes to a fault, but it also helps me keep it all organized.
Absolutely, and definitely learning curves, as we all know, are absolutely real for sure. And so just kind of along those same lines, what was one of the most surprising outcomes that you saw that maybe you were not expecting, even though you did come into the implementation phase a bit later?
Surprising outcomes. I'm not sure. I think that, well, really, I'm kind of drawing a blank. Because when I came in and I started organizing it in my way. So I guess maybe the most surprising outcome was that I could organize it my way. So usually, when you can, do things that are a little bit customizable, with the proposals, actually, I'm able to put the fields in the order that I need them. One of the really surprising things just came recently when our state agency changed their templates for the pre-proposal and the full proposal. And we also have a notice of intent. So all of those changed just recently. I had to go in and I had to kind of redo the templates. Well, a lot of them were maybe just reorganizing and moving fields, and then entering new fields was easy to drag them where I needed them to. So you don't always have that much control yourself. A lot of times with software packages, you have to go to the company and say, okay, here, I need these changes. Can you put them in? I didn't have to do that, and I didn't have to wait for them to get it into their queue to get it done. I just went and did it on my time. It was done, and we were ready to go.
And that's really interesting because it does highlight how flexible the actual software of Curriculog actually is, and how great that it is that you are able to define those features that you need specifically for your institution to support all areas when you do those curricular changes. So that's definitely interesting. The next question might be a little bit more for Ian regarding what is the cost to implement something like Curriculog, and what are those cost criteria generally based on?
Sure, that's a great question. So with Curriculog, it's really made up of two separate costs. So there is a cost to implement. So that is the implementation fee. And really what that consists of is us taking in your forms and your process. And we do all the heavy lifting in the beginning. So what I mean by that is we're going to work with you, consult, build out your forms, and then provide training as well. So we'll go into the system, create everything to your specifications, and then train you on it as well. And then after that, you will hand over the keys. So just like Connie said there, if you need to make any changes, want to add any new forms, any new users, you have the ability to do that. So that's the first area is implementation. The second area is the subscription cost. And so what that covers is basically the hosting and support. So we are a Amazon Web Services hosted company. So we're going to be taking that burden off of your IT team and hosting Curriculog in the AWS cloud. Then also within it, it covers the cost of our support team. So you would have all of the users within the software would have access to our client care team, 24/7 via email or phone call. So that would also be a part of the subscription cost. The final one is any new upgrades. So the really great thing, or the interesting thing about Curriculog and really any of our solutions, all of our users are on the most current version of it. So what I mean by that is if we roll out a new feature, so for instance, if we roll out the proposal lookup, what we showed earlier, I believe that was just pulled in last year. That would be rolled out to all the different Curriculog instances, so all the different institutions would have it. And then in terms of specification of cost, that really depends, we take into account, that implementation, how heavy of a lift of it is, and then also, how big of a campus it is as well. So those are the criteria we look at. And if anyone has any individual questions, we would be happy to follow up with you after the webinar and provide a proposal.
That's excellent. Thank you, Ian. And it looks like we don't have any more questions. And so, Ian and Connie, are there any last parting words that you would like to share with our audience today?
Yes, I'd like to say stay safe out there and keep your social distance. If you can work from home, do it, because I'm sitting in my office. Otherwise, stay healthy.
And same for me. Connie said perfectly. It's definitely an uncertain time, and we hope everyone stays well and keeps on going during this time. Thank you.
And thank you all so much for joining us today. And definitely keep up to date with ACRO through our website, which we are updating every day. As most of you know, we did have to cancel our annual meeting in New Orleans this year. We are currently working out a possible virtual stream, and all of that information is going to be updated through our website. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and please stay safe and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.